Clearly, in this age of GenAI, we all know that this technology poses new areas of possible risks, right? So there's risk in problem design, trying to understand what is it that you're solving. There's risk in AI models, which embraces data risk as well as model build risk itself. And then there's usage risk for people who understand how to use these with their own biases, with their own misleading, inaccurate content, or sometimes what this model provides. And then the final one is definitely just compliance, regulatory, liability, etc. So as you've seen some of my podcasts, a lot of senior leaders in this space talk about legislation versus where this technology is going. There's definitely a gap, right? So legislation can move only so fast, but the technology evolution is way, way, way faster. So the key is they all imbibe that if you really want to do this well for the long term, you have to imbibe responsible AI by design. What that means is you have to understand what are your ethical, legal, and security risks that you should consider while deploying a GenAI solution. You need to understand and adapt to understand these risk processes and what are your policies and controls for your enterprise, for your industry, etc. And then eventually you got to understand and percolate that down to training, evangelism within internal as well as external stakeholders to make the right informed decisions. Because end of the day, the ethical considerations of GenAI, we all know, right? Copyright, inaccuracy, IP ownership issues, biases, and then of course sycophancy, which I've talked a lot about in my previous podcasts. As you design some of these responsible AI, there are so many dimensions, right? So whether it's transparency, whether it's explainability, whether it's fairness, whether it's sustainability, you need to understand what are some of those that are important to you. Use some of these to say, hey, this is how I rank order some of my solution design, and then kind of imbibe it right from design rather than bolting it in later. So the idea is that whether it's principles and governance, whether it's risk policy and control, whether it's culture and training, use all those pillars to come up with the right solution so that you can play with this technology and really create value for your consumers in the right earnest spirit and still be around and be sustainable.